Welcome to another webinar of Veramed. Today we are talking about increasing your influence, which is a really, really important topic. It comes up all the time. So let me share my screen first and then we can go from there. So, increasing your reputation and influence as a statistician in the commercialization space. When I think about this, I have kind of very often this type of picture in my mind. Yeah, it is a typical thing that people are quite frustrated about. In nearly all the discussions that I'm in with other statisticians, it's about, I would have, liked to be invited to this discussion because then I could have changed X, Y, Z. Or recently I heard about, someone saying, they made a decision about my study or about this publication. I wasn't even invited. Or there was, I was once seeing pretty bad paper from a major pharmaceutical company. And so I knew someone at the company and asked, how can that be? And that person said, oh, sometimes we are not even included in the final review of these publications. And so this lack of influence, this lack of having a good reputation to be in the room when the big decisions are made is a really, really important topic. Of course, kind of if you work in outside of medical fairs, it's also a topic. If you go to the PSI conference, and I can highly recommend that, going to the PSI conference in June in Gothenburg, I'll also be there, and lots of other people from Veramed. It will again be a topic. Leadership is always a topic. But what can we do in terms of an hour space to actually sitting at the table? Because often it's not required by SOP. It's not like, well, for this task, like for sample size calculation, you need a statistician. Yeah, it's not that. So what can you do about it? Let's first look into kind of how does the information actually flow. Let me quickly change something here. There's something in the setup to make it better. Okay. Sorry. So what can you actually do to increase your reputation? Let's look first kind of how does the information flow? What is the landscape that we are working in? So on one hand, we have our key stakeholders, our external stakeholders. So we have patients, we have physicians, and we have payers. And on the other hand, there we have us, statistics. And how it kind of, in a very, very simple way works is that the questions come from the right hand, and then they go to us, and then we feed them back. Now, it isn't that we directly talk with physicians, patients, and payers usually. Usually it is either through or with other people. And all these functions are kind of in these red circles there. Yeah, like PRA, real-world evidence people, health economics and outcomes research people, medical marketing, all these kind of different people we work with. And then kind of the other way around, we are not, talking one-to-one with people. It's not like, we send a document directly to people, like we send a document directly to the FDA or the email. No, we usually kind of work through kind of a cascade of documents. Yeah. So maybe we have a a publication. This publication is put into a slide deck. The slide deck is presented. It's picked up by someone else, created a new slide deck, and this slide deck is then used for promotional material that actually then meets the customer. So there's always kind of this circle, and we need to kind of work in this environment and influence the overall process and all these different pieces. Now, the problem is that all depends really on your way to influence. Yeah. How good are you in influencing, all these different deliverables? And how good are you in influencing all these red circles? Now, depending on kind of the size of your company, yeah, these red circles may all sit basically in your global organization. But the bigger the organization gets, and I'm just thinking about a typical large pharma company, there's a Novartis, a GSK, the Lilly, these kind of companies, they will always have global and local, and sometimes also organizations in between, like global, European, and then local, something like this. So how do you influence on all these different levels? That's the question here today. So if you think about yourself, yeah, what kind of influence do you see? Yeah, rate your influence. So here we have, a scale of 1, really poor, to 10, I'm a master influencer. I really have high influence across all these different levels, across all the different functions as a statistician. Yeah, just put yourself in here. So I'll rate myself as well, so that gets away. Let's see how that goes. So where's the poll? Where's the poll coming up? Okay, there we see. Okay, I rated myself as a 10, so I see, just can easily identify it. Okay, so we have a 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 6, 2, 7, and 8. Someone else like me rated a 10. Yeah, okay. If you're a 10, I'd really love to talk to you, because there's not a lot of people that have, really this big of an influence. But you can see, usually there's quite some room for improvement. Yeah. Now the interesting thing is that really understanding this influence very often depends on the size of the network that you actually see. So I've worked in these kind of big companies for 20 years. Yeah, so nearly 20 years in this area, and whenever I kind of thought I had a very, very good understanding of the overall organization, there was yet another area that I discovered. And so getting really good influence is really, really hard. Now, what can you actually do? Yeah, let's go to the kind of key tool that I have used over pretty much 2 decades to make a big impact, to change situations, to improve situations. The surprising tools that I actually used is training. No, here I wanted to actually have different slides. So just This is weird. That should be a different slide. Just a moment. Sorry. I picked the wrong slide set. Sorry for that. This is the right one. The surprising tool is actually training. Now, I guess you're thinking, training? Is he serious? Training? Reading SOPs? This is a tool to influence? No, I'm of course not talking about such training. Yeah, what I'm talking about is helping others understand something. And this training can be lots of different things. Yeah, it can be a webinar, it can be an interactive session, it can be face-to-face session at a conference, it can be a video, it can be a slide set, it can be all kind of different things. Yeah, but through training, you can achieve something that builds this influence. So if you think about it, there's 3 different things that you want to achieve. You want to be known, liked, and trusted, because people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So let's go through these kind of step by step. First, know. If people don't know that you even exist, no influence. Usually no influence. Yeah, I once talked to someone in marketing at a big pharma company. There were 400 statisticians, not counting in the programmers. And I was asking this marketing person, how many statisticians do you know? And she said, 1, you. That is not unusual that, people don't know about statistics. I once, was sitting next to someone at an event and said, I'm a statistician. Oh, I didn't know we actually have statistics. This happens all the time. Yeah. So the first hurdle that you need to overcome is you need to be known. The second thing is you need to be liked. Yeah, because if people don't like you, they won't work with you because they don't need to. They want to work with you, and they only want them to, that they want to work with you, and that is only by be likable. Yeah. So does that mean you need to be the funniest person in the room? No, but it needs to be at least a person that is easy to work with. Yeah, that is nice to work with. So, like, how do you get them to like? I'll go into that a little bit more. Trust. Now, trust, of course, is the most fundamental thing here. Well, you can't trust someone if you don't know him, of course, but trust really depends on 3 different elements. The first is competence. Of course, people need to know that you are competent in terms of what you do. And that usually comes because of your education, of your track level, of, maybe the halo effect of your statistics organization. Now, that's, of course, a little bit of a tricky thing. Maybe your statistics organization doesn't have a very good reputation. Then it's not so much of a halo effect, but more of a pitchfork effect. Yeah. So that being in this organization actually, pulls you back rather than supports you. So the first is competence. The second is care. You need to show that you care for the other person. You need to show that you have their best interest in mind. Of course, you need to understand for that what are actually their goals, what are their needs. Yeah. If their goal is really to have something really quick, you need to be really quick and fast. Yeah. So their goal is to have something really innovative. Don't come with the standard stuff. That is really, really important. The third thing is about competence. So it's about, character. So it's competence, caring, and character. Character now is, of course, a much more kind of difficult thing, is whether you say what you do and you do what you say, these type of things. Yeah. So show these three elements to your people: that you have competence, that you care, and that you have character. Now, these things, of course, build over time, and training helps you to achieve all these things: be known, be liked, be trusted. When I think about training, there's basically 4 fields of training. And many of you will, when you think about stats training, first think about the generic stats training. Yes, this kind of stats 101 program where you talk about what is descriptive statistics, what is a test, what is a regression, what's a p-value, what's a confidence intervals, all these kind of, usual concepts. The second thing is about communicating statistics. So I think this is really, really important from a kind of overall data literacy perspective, that we are able to communicate data, communicate evidence in a really, really good and impactful way. And we need to help others to do that as well. So this is another area. The third field is about explaining internal data, internal results. There's a new phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 study coming out, a new observational study coming out, a new publication, whatsoever. We need to be able to explain what that is. We need to be able to empower others to explain what it is. Yeah, because if we think about this huge organization, we usually don't talk to all the customers, as I said before. We talk to people in the middle. Yeah, we maybe talk to a physician that will then talk to marketeers who will then create promotional materials that sales reps will use. So we need to be able to make sure that every person in this line really can communicate data. Now, we are not playing, of course, in a field in some kind of vacuum. There is external things also happening. Yeah, there's data from maybe the competition that comes out, or maybe data that comes out from a third party like Cochrane, or like a guide from an HTA body, or maybe there's some kind of association, some medical association that publishes something. And these kind of external results can create a lot of turbulence in companies, especially when they go against, the company's point of view, or, shows kind of weaknesses of data, or, puts into doubt what the company is talking about. So these explaining and communicating this external data is also really important. Now, let's go into these 4 things one by one and start with the generic statistics training. Is it helpful? Well, on the pro side, it's really trainer focused usually. We as statisticians provide the training in the same way as we have, been trained ourselves. We more or less kind of take a stats 101 course and put them into some kind of slides or whatsoever, and then talk about this. That's easy, it's scalable. You can do that to as many people as you want in a pretty easy way, because you can, just take one program and apply it to everybody in your organization. And, you can put any statistician as a trainer usually. The con, however, is that usually the retention of the knowledge is not that good, because people are not emotionally connected. Yeah, if you just talk about this p-value from study XYZ and they are not working on it, they don't care. And if you're not emotionally connected, research shows that you are much worse off in terms of retaining this knowledge. The second is usually you get very low engagement. Yeah. Is that really something for me? I don't know. He's talking about diabetes. I work in oncology. You also get very often low attendance for these reasons. And the biggest reason is there's no, sense of urgency. I can do this training now. I can do it in half a year. I don't care. Yeah. And usually it competes with something else in your calendar. And therefore, that leads then to people not showing up or people dropping out, things like that. There's 3 ways to improve it. First is be specific to your audience. Yeah. So make it really tailored. You can start with something really generic, but then tailor it exactly to the needs. Yeah. Ask, what do you really want to know about today? What are your specific points that you want to know about? And then go through these. I've done that quite a lot, especially in these face-to-face situations. I would have a flip chart and ask, what are the key things that you want to learn today? I would write them down, and then I would, cross them off while I talk about it. That helps to kind of connect. The second is use domain terminology. Yeah. So if you speak to oncology people, speak to, survival rates or kind of other kind of oncology endpoints. If you talk to someone in neuroscience, yes, then talk about depression or Alzheimer or something like this. And also take your examples from that. Yeah. So if you show an example where you want to highlight something like a mean or something like p-value or how you design an experiment, take that example from the audience perspective. Of course, that means you need to have a more targeted audience. Yeah. You need to then, instead of having one meeting where you invite everybody, have one meeting only for the people from diabetes, one meeting only for the people from respiratory, and the next meeting only for the people from oncology. And then, you have a much better effect. I've seen that firsthand. We had these kind of generic training courses in all the different companies I've worked in. And I've always focused it, because in my first years in the pharma company, I had exactly that problem. Yeah. People were sitting in these rooms and saying, this is about diabetes. I'm not working on diabetes, because they can't, make the transfer from, I'm just talking about a continuous endpoint here. So that is really important. How you can use it to increase your influence. First, you can use it to promote about yourself. Yeah. Offer it frequently. And also kind of offer it, we can do that for your team on request. So if you, for example, talk to the head of XYZ, you can say, we have this training on the shelf. We could deliver it, in a really targeted way for your team to help your team improve their capabilities in terms of statistics. And all the time, when you offer that, when you put it into newsletters, all these kind of things, you improve the know factor. And when people then come into this and speak to you, you improve the like factor. And when they get out of the meeting and they have seen this person is really, really good, then you have also improved the trust factor. And this is when then later people will come to you and say, I have this problem here. Can you help me with it? Or there's this decision coming up. Let's pull in this statistician because he actually knows quite a lot and he's easy to work with. If you have already some testimonials, communicate wide about it. Yeah, say we had the head of XYZ in this training, and she said blah 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 blah. Yeah, and then follow up with the participants thereafter. Don't let it just be a one-time event and then never talk about them. Yeah, give them put them on some kind of newsletter list or something like this, where they get kind of additional things over time. So when you want to do something like this, yeah, if you want to set up a training and why this training influence people, what kind of communication channels could you use? Yeah, just put in some text. What you can think about in this poll? Yeah, what communication channels could you use to influence as a statistician? So influence in a way here, share this training, follow up on the training, things like this. Let's see what's coming up here. Face-to-face conversations, yes. Or external, LinkedIn, PSI, Twitter. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting thing. When we wanna influence a really big organization, sometimes it's easier to use external communication channels. Creating blog posts, having an email list, YouTube, social media. Oh, yeah, by the way, social media, there's very often company internal social media that you can use. So I've used that especially within my last pharma company. It wasn't that popular before, but probably if you have work in a bigger company, these will be used. Open office hours. Yes. So if you have some kind of generic kind of stats consultancy, come ask any stats question. That's a really, really nice way to connect with people. And there you can, share then with people. Have an email list. Yeah, this could be also, of course, it could be an external email list, but maybe here's an internal email list. And internal has, of course, the nice thing, you don't need to care about GDPR. And if you're not know what GDPR is, that's probably a good thing. But you can, put yourself an email list together of all your relevant groups. Yeah. And just by connecting all the relevant internal email lists, you can come up with a really, really nice one. Okay, let's talk about the next big field, communicating statistics. Communicating statistics is a really, really important thing. About 15 years ago, I visited this nice city. And if you don't know, this is Munich. And I spent one day with a sales rep in Munich. I was visiting lots of different psychiatrists because it was all about psychiatry at that time was a company I was working with, and was looking into how it is to be a sales rep. Yeah, how it is to kind of speak to physicians, to speak to prescribers, and explain about the value of your compound with them. And there was one thing that really stood out for me. Whenever he was showing data, whenever he was explaining data, he would have a figure, no table, and surely no listing. Figures, data visualizations. These are the tools to communicate data effectively. Now, that is a really nice area because you, as a statistician, can work on these. Generally, when we think about data visualizations, there's two things that come to mind. There is the explanatory data visualization or the exploratory data visualization. Explanatory is when you, like here on the left-hand side, you want to convey a message. Yeah, you have a speaking title, you have something that is highly kind of customized to exactly the message you want to convey. Like here, increasing dose leads to improved glucose stability over 52 weeks. Yeah, then you have that. Or you have something on the other side, which is a dashboard where you have, as you can see on the left-hand side in this gray area, you have tick boxes where you can select something, where you can filter something. So depending on how you want to, what you want to communicate, what you want to do with the data, you will go for the exploratory or the explanatory. But when we talk about getting other people to act on our data, we usually rely on the explanatory. Yeah, this is what is mostly used when you think about publications, when you think about presentations, when you think about promotional material. So how do you get to a really good explanatory data visualization? That can be the content of a training. Now, there's a couple of different things that matter with really good data visualization. The first is context. You can speak about, you need to be careful about the audience. You need to be careful whether there's a presenter, what presenter is there. You need to be clear about what do you need your audience to know or do. What are the key facts that you want to, translate? What is the crisp message you want to get about? And then also, how will the audience interact with the data? You need to have different data visualizations, whether it's a manuscript, where people can kind of look at it, or whether it is a slide at a presentation, where someone actually talks to it, but only maybe talks to it for 30 seconds, whereas on the paper, you can read it for hours if you want. Yeah? So you need different setups there. The other things that you can talk about are Gestalt principles, how you can leverage these to improve data visualizations. And if you don't know what proximity, similarity, enclosure, all these different things are and how to use them, you can actually work together with Veramed. I'll talk about that at the end. We can help you to improve things and knowledge about this. The next topics that you can include in your data visualization is using pre-attentive attributes to focus the attention of your audience. Yeah. So here's 12 different ways of pre-attentive attributes. There can be orientations, there can be differences in length or width or size, in shape, color, contrast, all kind of different things. Yeah. This way you can make the audience look at this, what you want to look them at. It's like being a great wizard, yeah, a magician who kind of makes sure that when he does something here, the audience looks here, but actually the action is somewhere else. Yeah. Here's, of course, you want to show where the action is. Yeah. So how can you do this? The next topics that you can include in your data communication thing is how you can improve data visualizations by eliminating clutter. Here I've taken an example from a famous data visualization, Kolnos Baumer-Knaflic. And you see, and it's not a medical example, but it's really, really nice, how before and after, by reducing clutter, like, unnecessary 3D effect, unnecessary grid lines, bad font, all these kind of different things, how you get from a pretty messy, ugly graph to a very nice, crisp, clean graph that conveys a message. Yeah. It's another thing that you can speak about in your data communication training. How does it help you? It shows, what you are capable of doing, that you are capable of doing really, really great data visualizations, and that people will speak to you. Hey, let's talk to the statisticians because they can do these amazing things. And by the way, you can do a lot of amazing things because you have access to patient level data that all the medical writers can't do. They can show the means, they can show the proportions, but they can't, create a Kaplan-Meier plot. They can't create, these graphics that I've just shown where this one here on the left-hand side, where you have, all these little points in. They can't do that. You can do that. So you can show your capabilities. And you can showcase these opportunities that you have. Oh, we could do something animated. We can do this. We can, adjust your graph here so it's more impactful. And also, one of the things that we as statisticians are really good at is understanding variability. Well, that's all our job is about. And we can help others to appropriately convey this uncertainty, this variability in the data by either showing, patient level data or by including confidence intervals, confidence bands, all these kind of different things in the most appropriate way. And again, what do? You offer it again and again and again. You provide it on request, you communicate about it, and then you follow up. Like with the generic stats training. Offer, communicate, and follow up. What's really important here is be clear on the goals that you want to achieve. Yeah. Clarify also how they can request help. Yeah. When they want to do a data visualization, yeah, tell them you can come to me, or there's a specific email address, or there's a homepage where they can go to. Clarify how what is the next step for them. If they want to make a great data visualization, you want them to reach out to you, to your group, to your team, to the statistics functions. And then showcase these advanced data visualizations. Yeah, there is lots of great examples, for example, in the visualization special interest group by PSI. If you have never heard about it, go to the PSI homepage and check for the visit. They have, about 2 years of webinars now there. Lots of great stuff. Let's go into explaining internal data and results. And we have probably all been, in these kind of situations where we explain data. do it in a way that makes you stand out. Don't just copy and paste, the figure from the report onto your slides or the table from the report onto your slides. Make it really impactful. Customize it. Yeah. Use really good figures. Make it in such a way that people think, I want to do this as well. Yeah. And then make it so that, it, spreads the word about it. That people think, oh, Fred, the statistician, is presenting today. I really want to be in this room. And not, Fred, the statistician, is presenting today. Oh no, again. Be a really good presenter. What is really important about this type of training is timing, having the right audience, and having some way to scale it. Timing is really everything here. Yeah. So if you are too late with it, nobody will be any more interested in it. Train very, very soon after the data comes out. Yeah, so if, for example, there's a phase 3 readout, don't start to train only when the publication is out. People need to be aware across the organization first, before the competition can come up on it. Yeah, your medical scientific liaisons should be the first to talk to the key opinion leader about your data, not the competition, hopefully. Yeah, because you want to set the scene. Otherwise, you run the risk that, say something about your data and you need to work against it. That is a really, really bad situation. The second thing is consider your audience. Yeah. When you have different audiences, like, you have maybe global team, highly scientific, very well versed, has maybe even worked on the study. That's something different than talking to an individual, to a local sales team. You need to understand what is their level of clinical data understanding. Do they already know these endpoints, or do you need to explain about the endpoints? What is the best format for them? Is it a 2-hour face-to-face event, or is it a 5-minute video? What is their availability? Yeah. For global medical directors that only works on this product, great availability. For a local PRA person that works on the complete portfolio, very small availability. So make sure that you meet all these different demands. And then make it scalable. There's basically 3 ways, we as a small group of statisticians can talk to all these hundreds or thousands of people in our organizations. First is train the trainer. Yeah. Have some kind of program where you have a very, very in-depth training to those that then train others. Let's say you train your the medical people from the different affiliates really in depth, so they can then train the rest of the affiliates. Having webinars is, of course, really nice, yeah, because it doesn't matter whether you do it for 2 people or whether you do it for 2,000 people. Or asynchronous training, yeah, having short video clips, things like that, just are bite-sized, talking about a specific problem within the data or a specific opportunity within the data. Top tips: segment your audience. So know about, okay, this is right for this audience, this is right for that part of the audience, this is for this audience, from a content perspective, but also from a format perspective. Yeah. So you can't kind of have face-to-face meeting for everybody. You can't have a 2-hour webinar for everybody. Be sure that you kind of adjust the content, but also the format. And then learn as you go. Yeah. Always collect feedback and improve things, because you need to have a kind of learning cycle in it, because you'll surely not get it right as a get-go. So always improve in terms of how you communicate. And of course, again, offer this, communicate, and follow up. Offer, communicate, follow up. Let's talk about the last piece here, the explaining external data and external results. Whenever I think about this, such a picture comes to mind. Yeah, kind of, there is this external data coming, there's this new network meta-analysis, there's this new phase 3 study, their drug looks much better than our drug, or they say our drug is really, really bad in terms of XYZ, or our drug is not efficacious enough, or not, fast enough, or whatsoever. And then people panic. Yeah, whole big organizations might panic because, everybody thinks, oh, this data is so threatening. But only you as a statistician may have the knowledge to put it into perspective and say, on first hand, maybe it looks, but here's why they are not true. This is where our strengths are. This is where their limitations are. This is what it means from a bigger point of view. You need to be prepared for these external trainings. It is really, really important. You need to be prepared to remain in control. What does that mean? Is you need to have proactive, you need to have fast communication around the assessment of the data, the impact on the company's strategy, and also follow-up actions. And that is the only way to manage bad news. Yeah, proactive and fast communication around the assessment of the data, the impact on the company, the follow-up actions. These 3 things. And of course, you can be prepared. Now, that's the next interactive part here. Write into the chat, what can you do to be prepared? How can you be prepared? Yeah? So that this external data doesn't surprise you, that you can work really fast. How can you be prepared? Just write into this. Okay, just write into there. Let me see. Be in communication with the study teams. Be involved in the data early. Yeah. This is about the internal data. But what about the external data? How can you be, how can you know about that early on? Imagine, you have domain knowledge. Yeah, domain knowledge, for example, in terms of what are all the compounds that are out there that are studied by the competition. Yeah, know about things like attend clinical conferences. Know about kind of who will present there. If it says kind of GSK will present their phase 3 data there, well, you can probably anticipate what type of phase 3 data it is. And then you can put these results in the broader context. Like if they have this design features that we don't have that probably kind of works in favor of them or it works against us whatsoever. Yeah. What put it into context? Yeah. If you would have done the same design, let's say they have a design that focuses only on one specific population. How does your data look into this population if you have a mixed population in your study? Yeah. So be prepared for these kind of things. Maybe even have a, in the indirect comparison lined up. Yeah. What you can do is you need to expect the unexpected. You need to expect that someone will, do a network meta-analysis. Someone will publish an indirect comparison because people do. Yeah. There's lots of incentives to do these from an academic point of view. Have a process to prepare for it and for then cascade the information. Yeah. So that when there's an information coming out, there's some kind of war room, that processes that and communicates your perspective about it, so that people get the news from you together with your narrative. That is the next thing. Yeah. Have a structured narrative. So when the data comes out externally, you pick it and say, these are the key points from this publication. And this is what we think about it. These are kind of the strengths. These are the limitations. These are the next actions for you to take. And then apply your learning from the internal data. Yeah, for the internal data, you also have this, train the trainer. You need to have the communication channels, all these kind of different things. You can apply these learnings here for the external data as well. And again, offer it, communicate about it, and follow up. Yeah. So we talked about these four different ways you can leverage training, or these four different types of training that you can leverage to increase your influence, to have a greater network, and to achieve better data communication. Yeah? Because, of course, if you are providing people with the capabilities and capacity to do better data visualization, for example, then that also helps with your communication of your internal data. Yeah? If people have a better understanding of what a p-value is, that will help them and build confidence in terms of communicating internal data. And of course, it will help also when you then put into context external data, if people understand about study design and things like this. All these things move together. Yeah. So it's not like you can only focus on one. You need to have the complete pie, so to say, to have the maximum impact, because things are interacting with each other. There's a lot of synergy between these different things. So if you think about it, what barriers do you see to deliver such great training? Just shortly write into this box. What barriers do you see? Okay. Let me see. What barriers do you see? Now, what I usually hear about is I don't have time for that. I don't have the resources for that. Or when it becomes to data visualization, I'm not an expert in that. These are the kind of typical things that come up. Now, if you're thinking about these things, yeah, and you think like, oh, I really would like to get help to get through this frustration, we have something for you. Yeah, we can help you to provide feedback on your training. Yeah, what can you do to improve training in all these 4 different areas? Yeah, you can set up a coaching session with me, and then we'll, go through that, discuss what is all needed. We can, of course, scale it up and say, we developed your training. Yeah, we can help you to have the right slides, to have, all the different formats that you want to have. If you're short of staff, we can also deliver training for you. Let's say you only want to kind of do it once, and then someone from the Veramed team kind of repeats it for lots of different other areas. And of course, we have also existing Veramed training that we can adapt to your needs. Yeah. For example, we have a really, really good data visualization training that you can, just get us to your people, and help them to become better in terms of data visualization, data literacy. So these are the things we can do for you in terms of improving your influence, your network, via this pretty surprising tool of training. Just write me an email at alexanderschacht@veramed.co.uk, and I'm really, really happy to help you with these kind of things. Okay, let's go into Q&A. Any questions? And I just see, Emma, sorry that your stream kept freezing. I hope that has resolved. Any questions? Just type in any question into the Q&A part. By the way, we also have a really nice handout. There's a guide about data skills training that is in the handout part. It's a document that you can just print out. It speaks to pretty much all the different things that I talked to in this webinar. So you can go through it and go step by step and make sure that you have all the different things covered. And of course, there's also contact details from Veramed in there. But well, you can also find me on LinkedIn always. I'm pretty active there, so connect with me there as well. Okay, we are approaching the end of the hour. Thanks so much for being with me here. If you have, if you really like this training, you can later watch it again on the Veramed homepage. And if you think others would benefit from it, then just send them to the Veramed homepage. We have all the webinars there. Just search for the Launch and Commercialisation part, and then you'll find all the different webinars here. And of course, we'll have further webinars in the future, so watch out for these. Thanks so much.